you can accomplish anything that you want in this world, I guess, if you put your mind to it. Especially a person like him, just using crutches, walking from La Ronge to Regina is a very, very big accomplishment. A person can do anything.
I felt for Gary. I felt I felt happiness. I was. I, I I know that people have dreams. I know that I have dreams all the time, and to be able to fulfill a dream is the most wonderful thing that can happen to a person. And I know Gary had a dream, and I encouraged him and supported him to tell others about that dream. Remember the day he told me that he was going to walk for to create awareness to the disabled in the north, and I thought, that's great, do it. I'll help you. You know that I'd be there to help you with it and to make that dream of yours come true. He had a dream, and I was really happy that he did.
No matter who he phoned, no matter what agency he tried to get a hold of, they just didn't have any way to deal with the problems of the North. An example is he tried to get a hold of the Voice of the Handicapped at the time, and they are a provincial-based agency, and they didn't have any way to help him. He came in to my office many times prior to this walk with a lot of issues that couldn't be resolved, and I had no idea how to resolve them either. And so he came in and mentioned that he was going to walk to La Ronge, and I thought, well, it's a little strange. Pine House to La Ronge is, at that time, we're talking a pretty quiet highway. There wouldn't be a lot of recognition, and I didn't think it was all that good of an idea at first. And also, Gary being as small a man as he is, I didn't know. Actually, I thought he was just blowing smoke. I didn't really take it for real. Anyway, he grabbed Lawrence Yu, my administrator at that time, and they went off into a room somewhere, and they started chatting. And a couple days later, next thing I know, he walks in the office. He says, well, I'm walking from La Ronge to Regina. And the words I used is, are you nuts? Which was all that would come to my mind at the time. And he said, Greg, I have to do something. I'm going to live my life in the North, and the way it is right now, I can't leave it as it is. I have to do something. All I could think of is this. If you have a better idea, let me know. And I didn't have one. Anyway, so that was the first round, and at that time, being serious, I thought he was nuts. That's no other way to put it.
They were talking about this Gary guy. They said, oh, here is, the answer to Terry Fox for Northern Saskatchewan. They're talking about this guy. He's going to do this walk. So, a lot of people were saying, oh, geez, what is this guy doing? And everybody was asking all kinds of questions. Oh, yeah, he'll probably go a couple miles and he'll probably give up. So we heard all kinds of commentary because sometimes, people like to try and do things on this way and that way and talk about community values and all of that. And sometimes people are a little bit worried about talking about an individual doing something, on a scale that Gary did. So there was all kinds of conversations like that taking place when Gary was around. Of course, Gary was the type of individual whose character, made that even better, because Gary was a bit gregarious, and he was always laughing, and he was always getting excitable about stuff. So Gary helped develop the mold and the situation from there. So I was talking to this guy, and he was going a mile a minute in regards to, all the things that were going to benefit on chains, on the communities, and things like that. So I said, oh, okay, we'll see what happens. But I knew that, in that individual mold was a community-oriented person, that indeed, there was a community, some community people that were helping him out, and there was this idea that it's got to impact at the political level. I mean, there was people like the former MLA from Cumberland constituency, Lawrence Yu, from the west side, coming from the same area that was around. So when we got to this idea, and Gary finally, it was a go, and away he went.
was the mayor of all across that time when we got the call and saying that Gary was going to walk, and his walk was to talk about the disabled people in the north. And my immediate response was, that's a long, long ways. And is Gary going to do it? And Lauren said, yeah, he's bound and determined to do it. So he's going to start very quickly, and I was quite honored that you asked me to be part of it, Gary, because it's not every day you get called in to be part of a celebration, a major achievement, but I was amazed that you set such a high goal, but equally amazed that you accomplished it, and a heck of a lot more during your walk. So it is really something. Even I doubted that you could do it. Yeah. I didn't say that, but I had that doubt, and you proved everybody wrong.
It was provoking a lot of interest because they were talking about the disabilities issue in the north. And they were looking at the discrepancy between what was happening. You had disability vehicles picking up people in the cities. You had programs in education for people with disabilities. We didn't have the same level of services in northern Saskatchewan. So it brought a critical edge, to the usual situation that was there. And what happened was, and a lot of people started talking about this idea, and it gave, as we talked, and by the time Gary, comes in to the first major situation, goes to Weyahquin, to a halfway house, and finally we get into Prince Albert. It's the first, big city, and we're getting into Prince Albert, and then the news is on, the TV cameras are out, and Gary's coming in, walking in. So I'm walking with Gary, going across the bridge. And so we get into there, and we have a community group meeting, and Gary, of course, is a natural speaker, and he gets out there and he makes some comments, very straightforward, common sense ideas of how, we need to have support systems, for people with disabilities in northern Saskatchewan.
The most impressive moment, I think, of your walk was when you went into PA, where the RCMP escorted you into town. And there's hundreds of people in that hall. And then when I was in the hall, I got there before you. People from all over the place come into the hall, and there's a big hall, and it's fully packed. And all of a sudden, these young guys from Pine House come walking out in white shirts and black pants, and they're neatly combed. They look really impressive, like it's almost like a bodyguard corps.
Yeah.
And they all walked onto the stage, and they all stood there. And there's about maybe 8
Yeah,
to 10
about six people there.
about 6 to 8 people there, and they all stood there with their arms crossed, and then all of a sudden you walked onto the stage, and everybody just went absolutely crazy after you got up there, and it really showed that a small town like Pine House does have some very excellent people, and young people. I was really glad you brought them along, because it highlighted all the young, energetic people in Pine House, and then you coming out and with a big heart. It really was a perfect example for the people of Saskatchewan, what a northern community can do and what a northern person can do. So that was one of my lasting impressions of your walk.
I saw him when he was so stressed from the walk. I saw him when he was most tired. It was cold, I say, at that time during the walk. When the walk began, it was cold out, and I thought, boy, I hope he's going to be warm enough during the nights. It was hot, scorching hot during the days, and there was, we knew very little of the kinds of things to expect when you do this type of a walk. We knew, I, as a small-time healthcare professional, knew very little of the kinds of things to expect. the conditions that it would create on Gary's health. He fell. I remember him falling a couple of times, you know, and I thought we'd had it when he fell. But then, you know, he'd get back up. He'd get back up on his feet. He was frustrated. He was tired, I'm sure. And but he kept going. He continued his walk. It was important to him.
I don't know if I've been as proud of somebody as I've been that day. Even thinking of it today, and we're talking 12 years later now, I still get a funny feeling in me, remembering that day and the anxiety when he's approaching Regina, walking down Albert Street, getting into the legislature, meeting with George McLeod, Minister of Health at that time, closed door session with him for how to promote the awareness for the disabled in the North. Then the gathering at the university, and the supper that was thrown for him, it's about as exciting as it's ever been. I don't know, it doesn't get any better.
I was confident that because of the awareness that he created in the province, I knew that there was going to be something, a follow-up kind of thing. If there hadn't been, then I'm sure that the committee, the Gary Tinker Committee, the ones who originated here in the community, I'm sure that we would have thought of other ways to arouse that awareness in the North. We wouldn't have allowed Gary's dream to just disintegrate in that manner. I'm sure that we could have thought of other creative ways. But I sort of had a feeling that this was it, that, you know, the government was listening.
As it evolved and developed, of course, as you go into play, the question is, well, what success did it come from it? Well, not only did it unify people, you know, people with disabilities having their own board. I started seeing in government the board representatives meeting with different institutions, not only disabilities institutions, but impacting the regular system as well. There was an idea of integrating a lot of those services of people with disabilities within the education field and so on. And now I notice, even recently, I've noticed that in 1997, we have this big education system established for when you train people, they've got to be trained for real jobs, whether in this and that area, whether in the governmental system, whether in mining or in different areas. The question is, are disabilities represented in this Northern Labor Market Committee, where decisions are made, and are they including people with disabilities in there? So now I can say, yes, they are. The Gary Tinker Federation is part of the Northern Labor Market.
It's been interesting work, to say the least. It's very rewarding, and it's nothing like I've ever done before, because to see the results of some of our clients, it's just unbelievable. A lot of times they aren't given a good quality chance to succeed in jobs or training programs. So the harder you work with the client, the better the outcome will be.
kayo. Sinisot kaya ng dawana nag George Ward Goyaw. George Ward Goyaw. Randy Stump. Ewan na niya sitos ko ako kayo. Kaya na tapayo. Tatos kata kayo. Tapeta at kayo. Kiet no kayo. Kamaskis ko siya. Sinya. Tas ko tayo skuli. Siya. Tawid siya kayo. Tas sitos ko ako sisi. Tanda skuli. Tawas ayo. Kamaskis. Munan kaya. Kiyan di man ako sisi. Tanda skuli yan. Kami na kayo. At tos kayo tagatin naman ako sisi. Ako mo ano sa itin tamani na. Tas ko no siya gawin attack. There's a lot of awareness coming ayo at this point. Nabukas kaya na yung ramps ko siya tita ka na. Kaya ati mo na kutsiyo pa ate nugo. Asa mistake ko nugan. E kami na yung like that's kuts ka mas kista inak. Taginata mo so niya sa business kay paste ayo. Kay pasiguna kay mo tagyane ito.
Up here to North, we pride ourselves on being able to meet the standards to serve anybody throughout Saskatchewan or the world as they come up, and part of that is handicap facilities. And it was with the help of Gary Tinker that we're able to, and his foundation, and the people who work with him, to be able to design our handicap room. It was in the makings, but they helped us to make sure it was right. And a few things like making the door larger and the way the door swung, those types of things. They can do things on their own and be independent.
Maybe from there tos kayo tagigat na mga. Like before. Much ayo ka mas kisuan sinya like yet not pugi gasuwak. Much na mo chichius. But ano siya they're starting to come out in the open and you know. There's people like I guess like me, Gary ayo. There's people there gay chico check. What igata na pace check. Asitos ko ako.
Yes, I've noticed quite a bit of difference even in our own community itself when I talk to some of the people that I know here at Disabled, that they had some help from the Federation, you know, like taking training in different parts and getting involved in SARCAN and all that stuff.
I think Gary has inspired a lot of people in the North. First of all, for me, like I said, I believe in dreams, and I encourage people to live out their dreams. I had a dream. That's what I did. I went out and I was able to make my dream come true. It was inspired by Gary for me to live out my own dreams. Thought, well, if Gary Tinker has done it, and I can do it. He wasn't afraid. As for Pine House, Gary has he's become one of our role models in the community. Gary is a non-drinker. He's a non-smoker. He lives a healthy lifestyle. I go to him for moral support. So yes, he has inspired lots of people. I know in Pine House he's inspired lots, but I think and I believe that he's inspired lots of Native people and disabled people in the province.
I guess the best way to close is that what I mentioned earlier, each one of us has a role to play in society. And when people say that one man can't make a difference, we've already seen that he can. And this was a small gentleman that was small in mass, small in height, and yet he rippled the South enough that we're talking years and years of impact for the North. And I believe that because of one man, the disabled in the North do in fact have an opportunity to build a future. So every person in society, and especially in the North, every person who wants to be able to do something should just go do it. And they can make a difference in the future.
I would like to encourage the people out there. You know, nothing is impossible. If you want to do something for your community, do it. Don't just sit there and you know, have a dream about it. Do it